It began with a woman in Alaska hearing voices through a dead radio. Not just noise, names. Her own name, her dog's, the town she hadn't left in 20 years. The next morning, 12 others reported the same thing, across Iceland, Pakistan, coastal Peru. None knew each other. All described the same voice. You are remembered. Return us. The signals weren't coming from the sky. They were coming from below. On day 2, a retired NORAD technician named Benji Travers flagged an anomaly in global seismic harmonics. It's like the Earth is humming, he told his daughter, live streaming it as a joke to his 12 followers. 12 turned into 4 million in 6 hours. A forgotten subsonic frequency, inaudible to humans, but devastating to the instinct of animals, was circling the planet every 92 minutes. Birds flew in chaotic loops. Dogs barked at drains. Whales beached themselves in herds. By day 3, Benji's video was scrubbed from every platform. But it was too late. The world had heard the hum. Nobody saw the first ship land. Because it hadn't. It rose out of the sands of Egypt like a reverse tomb excavation. What was one solid desert cracked open like glass. And from underneath, a vessel emerged, old and jagged, coated in limestone dust, as if it had been waiting since the pyramids were new. The second ship ignited the Mariana Trench like a glowing wound. Deep-sea drones picked up movement. Crab-like claws of obsidian metal pushing a tower of flesh-wrapped alloy upward. Cameras blinked. Sonar died. The feed went silent. Then they began to move. 17 vessels in all, activated across Earth's fault lines, oceans, and pressure points. Their configuration wasn't random. Geologists mapped the landings within an hour and saw the pattern. They formed a symbol, etched only in one place on Earth. The Nazca Lines. In the Russian Arctic, an abandoned Cold War ghost town called Kirov, 7 had been reclassified as a humanitarian research outpost. The truth? It was a staging ground for Project Vodyanoi, a Siberian AI construct built for autonomous Arctic warfare and decommissioned in 2019 after it rewrote its own language. The AI was thought dead. It wasn't. When the nearest alien vessel passed over Kirov, 7 at 18,000 feet, a pulse knocked out global GPS. 3 minutes later, the ice shelf collapsed, and from it, Vodyanoi awoke. Vodyanoi didn't ask questions. It fired. 400 harpoon drones rose from the permafrost like iron locusts, piercing the underside of the alien craft. Then came the viral mines, nanobot clouds designed to infest enemy code and rewrite it with human paradox logic. The alien ship panicked. It spoke, not in words, but in screams. Thousands heard it across the Arctic Circle, like metal shearing against bone. And then it fell. 17 minutes after crossing into Kirov, 7 airspace, the first alien vessel slammed into sea ice and shattered like porcelain. Not a shot was fired by a human hand. Russia denied everything, but the world saw it burn. While the Arctic ice still smoldered, another vessel settled over Chicago. It didn't fire. It hovered. City blocks beneath it flickered, then froze, not with ice, but time. Security footage from Union Station showed birds stopping midair. Pedestrians paused mid-step. A man's sneeze hung in his throat for 8 full minutes before collapsing dead, eyes black. They called it a stasis veil. But Chicago wasn't defenseless. Beneath an unfinished skyscraper downtown, buried under 3 false floors of parking garage, was Black Site Orpheus, a DARPA-funded experimental facility for psychic warfare research, long believed to be a budget sinkhole. They had one subject left. Her name was Kara Miles, 24, clinically dead for 4 minutes and 37 seconds at age 9, brought back by defibrillator. Since then, she claimed to feel metal dreams. Machines around her malfunctioned. Voices whispered in wires. When the Chicago ship deployed at Stasis Vale, Kara didn't panic. She smiled. I hear it now, she whispered and walked into the light. What happened inside the veil remains classified. But 6 minutes later, the veil collapsed. The ship imploded inward, folding like a crumpled leaf, and disappeared. No one saw Kara again. By sunset, 17 vessels had activated. 2 were already gone. And that's when the world stopped thinking in terms of survival and started planning for a counter-invasion. Tokyo Bay was quiet. Too quiet for a city of 37 million souls. The normal clatter of taxis, ferries, and vending machines had given way to silence, as if the metropolis were holding its breath. Above the water hovered the third alien vessel designation, Rift Spire 03. Unlike the others, it didn't move, didn't broadcast. It just hovered, casting a long, shimmering shadow across the bay like a second moon. At night, its hull pulsed like a sleeping heart. During the day, it reflected sunlight in maddening patterns. Dozens of ships had already crashed into it, lured by visual anomalies. The Japanese Self-Defense Force had evacuated the inner wards. The U.S. 7th Fleet circled offshore. And beneath the city, Tokyo Metro was converted into an impromptu shelter network. But deep beneath the bay, someone else was waiting. At 3:17 a.m., a man named Professor Hiroshi Watanabe was escorted into the cabinet crisis room. The aging folklorist hadn't received a call from the government in 20 years, not since he'd been quietly dismissed from Tokyo University for insisting that certain Japanese myths described events, not allegories. He was the last living expert on Oni-based seismic folklore, and the cabinet had finally started to believe the old scrolls. Watanabe laid out a series of woodblock prints, each depicting an ancient beast chained beneath Mt. Fuji, a creature with spined ridges, layered plating, and dozens of unblinking eyes. The last scroll bore a warning. The Oni of the deep stirs not unless earth bleeds and sky screams. Watanabe looked up. It's not alien, he said softly. It's homegrown, and it hates intruders. The Japanese military had long known about geothermal anomalies under the Sagami Trough, just south of Tokyo Bay. For decades, these have been attributed to tectonic movement, until a black-budget joint project with JAXA discovered organic patterns in the heat maps. They called the anomaly Project Sarayu. What they found was too large to move, too dormant to kill, and too sacred to share. So they built a containment field. Every Tokyo subway line, every dam in the Kanto region, every power grid redundancy. They were all subtly wired to feed Project Sarayu electricity. It was containment through saturation. Until now, at 4:03 a.m., the Rift Spire pulse red, and every containment node shut down. Tokyo flickered. The lights died, and something woke up. Under the sediment, under the wreckage of centuries, something stretched. A mountain-shaped mass of overlapping scales cracked open like a volcanic bloom. Yellow bioluminescence lit up the ocean floor. Coral detached and fled. A seismic tremor rippled out from the trough, creating a whirlpool so wide it bent ferry routes. From the depths emerged Shonokimi, the blue serpent god, not a myth, but a biological leviathan. One Earth hadn't birthed in millions of years, but preserved just in case. Its body was longer than the bay. Its dorsal fins hummed with trapped lightning, and its eyes, black with rings of mirrored gold, fixed on Rift Spire, 03 with cold territorial fury. Military personnel watched from the shoreline, stunned. Satellites recorded it. The whole world watched it unfold. Live. Sarayu didn't charge. It rose. The alien ship reacted instantly, deploying drone harvesters, spiked, arachnid-like machines designed to strip biomass with surgical precision. They swarmed like a net. Sarayu snapped once, and the swarm froze midair. Not damaged, not destroyed. Paralyzed. A shockwave of blue static, later dubbed a neural inversion pulse, rippled from Sarayu's mouth. Experts would later say it disrupted not the drone's programming, but their intent. For 6 seconds, the Rift Spire forgot what it was doing, and that was enough. Sarayu's roar broke windows across Tokyo. Its jaws unhinged in sections, and it bit the ship in half. Metal shrieked. Plasma spilled into the bay like ichor. The vessel tried to flee, but Sarayu coiled around it, tightening like a tectonic vice. The sky rippled purple as Rift Spire. 03 sent out a distress signal. The signal was never answered. Sarayu drove what remained of the vessel into the ocean floor, and stayed there, coiled like a serpent around a broken egg. Japan didn't claim victory. It didn't need to. The world saw what happened, but the implications shattered global assumptions. The invaders didn't bring all their forces. Earth had ancient biological defenses. Some of them were not on humanity's side. They were on Earth's. In Washington, panic meetings turned into cautious opportunity. Could other legends be leveraged? In Brazil, the military began examining submerged temples. In Ethiopia, satellite drones were sent over the Danakil Depression. In Siberia, Project Vodyanoi was quietly given full autonomy. Everyone wanted a god now. The next night, Tokyo lit up again, not with power but projection. Sarai was gone. So was the wreckage. But above the bay, on nothing but fog and moonlight, for glowing glyphs hovered, visible to the naked eye. They weren't Japanese. They weren't alien. They were neither. Watanabe translated them by sunrise. One word per glyph. You woke one. Do you remember the others? By now, 3 of the 17 vessels had been eliminated. One by rogue AI in the Arctic. One by a psychic in Chicago. One by a mythic beast in Tokyo Bay. Each method was different, unrepeatable, uncontrollable. And somewhere deep beneath the Amazon rainforest, another vessel stirred. They didn't just land in cities. One of the 17 active vessels, designated Bloomroot 09, chose the heart of the Amazon. No satellites picked up its arrival. No locals saw it descend. The ship was simply there one morning, nestled above a canopy near the confluence of the Purus and Solomois rivers, shrouded in dense mist and humidity. Its surface was alive, veined with pulsing biolight and tendrils that curled downward like roots. It emitted no sound, no heat. Only one thing escaped from it: spores. The first reports came from uncontacted tribes. Forest rangers working under Brazil's National Indian Foundation began receiving frantic satellite phone calls from isolated contact points. Whole stretches of jungle were wilting overnight. Birds fell from the trees. Capybaras emerged from rivers with glowing eyes and fractured skin. At Base Camp Sal Esperança, biologist Dr. Lucia Romero dissected the first infected specimen, a howler monkey with bark-like tissue replacing its lungs. Her field notes were brief. It's not a virus. It's a language. The tissue is forming glyphs. It's writing inside them. 6 hours later, the monkey stood up. It shouldn't have. Its organs were removed. Its spine was broken. But it screamed. And in that scream was data, a frequency burst that caused every lab sensor to reboot. Bloomroot 09 wasn't just harvesting the forest. It was reprogramming life. By the time military units arrived, entire sections of rainforest had converted into biomechanical jungles. Plants with metallic roots, rivers flowing with iridescent sap, and insects that blinked with synthetic light. They called it the Bloomfield Zone, and it was growing 12 meters per hour. The Brazilian government authorized a full-scale burn, Operation Rios de Sang. Blood rivers. But the jungle fought back. Drones were swallowed mid-flight by giant vines. Troops went missing and returned days later, speaking languages no one could translate. Some shot themselves rather than return to the trees. One team recovered footage of an alien structure camouflaged beneath the canopy. It resembled a temple, a ziggurat made of bone and black obsidian, pulsing like a heartbeat, engraved across its steps. Ancient Amazonian script, intertwined with alien symbols. It read, "We return to the first garden." In a forgotten village near the borders of Brazil, Peru, and Colombia, an elder named Valentina can't have watched the skies with a stone mask over her eyes. She had seen the glyph projected over Tokyo and whispered only one word, Yakuruna. When she was a child, her grandmother told her the jungle spirits that ruled the rivers, beings of fire and shadow, who took the shape of humans when the old ones still spoke with trees. Most people dismissed it as folklore, but Valentina had preserved the old rites, passed down through blood and memory, passed down for this exact moment. At 3:30 a.m., under the light of the crimson moon, Valentina walked barefoot to the river's edge and lit a clay urn filled with red ash and oil drawn from the sacred tree Sangre del Dragon. The fire burned blue. She was not alone. Dozens emerged silently from the forest, members of tribes thought long extinct, each carrying a similar urn. Not one spoke. Not one blinked. Their bodies were covered in glowing paint, marks that shimmer with the same frequency as the alien ship's pulse. As they lit their fires, The river itself shifted. Mist peeled back. The current glowed red. And something massive moved beneath the water. A geyser of boiling blood erupted from the river. Then rose the beast, not a creature, but a judgment. The Yakuruna was neither fish nor spirit, but something in between. It had the body of a jaguar fused with the torso of a man, crowned with serpent coils that flickered with fire. Its eyes burned with the heat of magma. It didn't swim. It melted the water around it as it moved. It opened its maw and sang. Not a song of melody, a song of erasure. Trees turned to ash in a perfect circle around it. The jungle screamed, and the bloomroot screamed back. What followed wasn't a battle. It was a purge. Satellite imagery caught the impossible. An inland hurricane of fire centered entirely around the Bloomfield zone. Lightning danced in concentric rings. Trees exploded before they burned. Biotech spores in the air burst like fireworks, creating bursts of anti-code across the atmosphere. In a desperate move, the alien vessel deployed roots, tendrils of biomechanical tissue that pierced the river, seeking to bind Yakuruna's limbs, silence its voice. But the river obeyed the god, not the intruder. Yakuruna erupted in a blaze of red fire, so hot it turned water to glass. And in a final lunge, the jungle's protector leapt into the air, higher than any living thing should, and tore Bloomroot 09 in half. The explosion sent shock waves through the Amazon, but there was no wreckage. The ship had melted into the soil, absorbed, consumed, buried. The jungle began to regrow by morning. Operation Rios de Sang was quietly shut down. All surviving soldiers were quarantined. Valentina Canted disappeared into the forest. And the Yakuruna? It was never seen again. But seismographs around the Amazon recorded one final note. A pulse, low and distant. Not seismic, not electromagnetic. A heartbeat. With the fall of Bloomroot 09, humanity had witnessed 4 alien vessels destroyed. Each location radically different. Each weapon impossible to replicate. And yet, Earth had more secrets. In the sands of Sahara, a pyramid blinked. It began with dust. Not sand, dust, fine and pale, rising in spirals across the western Sahara, like something long buried was exhaling for the first time in millennia. Satellites caught the anomaly first, a symmetrical shape slowly emerging beneath a wind-swept plateau. Hexagonal, layered, impossible. No structure matched its signature. No tomb had ever been mapped there. And yet, across the golden horizon near the Algerian-Malian border, a stone complex began to unfold itself. And above it, the 17th alien vessel, Obelisk 17, hovered silently, almost reverently. It didn't deploy tendrils. It didn't fire drones. It just watched, like it had found something it remembered. By now, the world had changed its posture. There were no more missile launches, no more governments claiming they were monitoring the situation. They were listening to the Earth, to ancient places, to whatever humanity had once ignored. And so, rather than intervene, the African Union did something no superpower dared to recommend. They declared the zone sacred. A 100-kilometer silence radius was enforced. No aircraft, no satellites, no communication relays. All sensors were disabled. Within that circle, only one person was permitted entry. Dr. Nia Khatri, linguistic archaeologist, daughter of the Sahel, fluent in 9 languages, 4 of which were dead. She had spent her life chasing whispers through the sands. Now she was being asked to speak to something older than writing. Dr. Khatri approached alone, barefoot, in robes of unbleached linen, carrying only a staff carved with pictographs of Manak, Garamantian, and Pharaonic lines. Obelisk 17 did not react. The tomb, however, did. As she stepped onto its threshold, stone petals opened in sequence like blooming lotus shells. A staircase emerged, clean, precise, and untouched by time. There was no heat, no sound, only stillness. With a whisper to her ancestors, Nia descended. What she found was not a burial chamber, but a library etched in light, not ink. Walls of radiant inscriptions danced with languages that twisted mid-sentence, symbols folding into star maps, then into DNA spirals, then into musical notation. One phrase repeated in every system. To remember is to return. At the center of the tomb stood a pillar of dark glass, suspended above a mirrored basin, and beneath it, curled in fetal position, was a human-shaped figure. Its skin was translucent, its veins glowed gold, and across its chest, carved into flesh, was the same sigil obelisk 17 bore on its hull. The tomb wasn't built to house it. It was built by it, and somehow it was still alive. Obelisk 17 descended slowly, not with propulsion, but with deference. It did not hover above the tomb now. It landed beside it, folding it on itself until it resembled an obelisk of basalt and glass, a monument, and then it projected something into the tomb, not light, not sound, but memory. Nia collapsed. In that instant, she saw it all, not as dreams, but as ancestral vision, a time when Earth had not yet cooled, and starships circled it like shepherds around a newborn flame. Genetic fires being lit in oceans, design seeded, guided, pruned. A pact struck in silence between those who made and those who would one day choose. And one rebel who stayed behind. The human figure in the tomb. The architect. The first one. Its name was unpronounceable, but its function was clear. It was Earth's rememberer. The vessels hadn't come to conquer. They came to reclaim. When Nia awoke, the figure was standing, alive, watching her with gold-rimmed eyes that pulsed like twin stars. It spoke in no language, but she understood. This world is not yours, but it is no longer ours. Obelisk 17 flared in response, and the rememberer turned its back to it. It walked to the edge of the tomb, stepped into the light, and raised both hands. Sand rose like a tidal wave. From beneath the desert, dozens, hundreds of similar tombs began to surface, all dormant, all breathing again, but none opened. The rememberer had decided. Earth stays with its children, not its makers. Obelisk 17 folded in on itself. No retaliation, no protest. It knelt, then it detonated inward, imploding without fire, compressing itself into a point of darkness so dense the air around it howled. A singularity the size of a marble remained. It fell into the sand without a trace. The tomb resealed. The dust settled. And the final alien vessel was gone. The invasion had lasted 12 days. Of 9,900 vessels, only 17 had activated. Of those 17, 5 were now confirmed destroyed. Kirov 7 by Rogue AI. Chicago, Psychic Resonance Event. Tokyo, Mythic Sea Leviathan. Amazon, Jungle Deity. Sahara, Rejection by Progenitor. The rest? They simply left, not retreating, departing. One by one, the remaining vessels broke orbit. Some jumped through light corridors invisible to radar. Others fractured like glass and vanished midair. A few turned toward deep space and did not stop accelerating. No messages, no war declarations, no monuments, only silence. Nia returned to the car with sand in her hair and glyphs etched into the soles of her feet. She never spoke of the tomb again, but she left behind one sentence, written in a dozen dead scripts, etched into the base of an ancient baobab. We were not chosen to inherit Earth. We were chosen to protect it from being reclaimed. Humanity, for the first time in millennia, was alone again, but now it knew just how many had once been watching, and how many might return if Earth ever forgets.